Good afternoon, everyone. Honorable Minister, Director General ISA and colleagues. I would like to begin by thanking each one of you for joining us in this session. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to the soft launch of Solar Global Capability Center, a milestone that reflects our shared commitment to accelerating the global energy transition. Today marks not just the launch of a service, but the beginning of a new chapter in how solar innovation, digital capability, and international collaboration come together to redefine the future of clean energy. My friends, to begin with, I would like to invite Ashish Khanna, Director General of ISA, for setting the context for the session. Over to you, DG.
Thank you, Jyotsna. Good afternoon, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this important session on International Solar Alliance's Global Capability Center's virtual launch. This initiative stands at the intersection of AI and digital innovation, collaboration, and capacity building. Let me tell a little bit of the genesis of where we are on this. We felt that for sustainability of the Star Sea centers in 17 countries, it is very vital to link them to the digital powerhouse of India. And that was the initial thinking of Global Capability Center. We went around in all the regional committee meetings and we saw a great demand for the same, but also a great demand for a much deeper democratization of solar knowledge across all member countries. And therefore, I'm delighted that to democratize, we are in the process of developing an AI-enabled learning and knowledge-sharing platforms that will equip ISA stakeholders worldwide across all stakeholders, be government, industry, financial institutions, academia, and communities with cutting-edge solar work. We are doing it after consulting a lot of stakeholders, including India's Capacity Building Commission, private sector agencies, international agencies like RENAC, because we believe the future of learning is on using AI. We are also going to launch an ISA Academy's first version of a YouTube channel today, with both these initiatives aimed at the importance of International Solar Alliance's role in democratizing solar knowledge across all our member countries. That's more than 3/4 of humanity. We really hope that this gives us an opportunity to reach, whether you are a technician in Malawi, a high school student in Cuba, or any child sitting in a high school in India, to have the same access to information as is made possible through AI-enabled learning. So thank you very much. We will share with you a virtual business plan through this session, here without extremely valuable set of advice from the great panel. And I wish this panel a great discussion. It's start of a very important journey. Thank you once again for coming.
Thank you so much, DG. DG will have to leave for the parallel session where we are actually launching our floating PV framework. So moving on, we have a presentation on the key dimensions and strategic aspects of the ISA Solar Global Capability Center. Thank you. As we know, solar deployment in Global South is experiencing accelerated growth. However, it continues to face systemic challenges like financial and investment barriers, infrastructure and grid limitation, policy and regulatory hurdles, and technical factors. And on the other hand, we see how artificial intelligence and digitalization has revolutionized solar deployment in advanced countries, optimizing planning, efficient designing, reducing cost, and improving reliability. Well, as you can all see, this presents a huge opportunity for the Global South. They can leapfrog traditional bottlenecks by AI-enabled planning and forecasting for enhanced solar generation, optimized grid management, overcome data scarcity, and regulatory delays. They can maximize limited resources by deploying artificial intelligence to strengthen capacity building, knowledge repositories, training systems, etc. They can also build climate resilient solar systems tailored to local climate risk and grid challenges. Hence, leveraging the power of artificial intelligence and digitalization, ISA is in the process of setting up a global capability center, which will be a future digital one-stop shop offering open source, free to access AI-powered digital platforms and solutions that help member countries speed up solar deployment. The GCC will be anchored on 4 strategic pillars. AI and digital services will have advanced digital platforms and analytics to accelerate planning, designing, and deployment, like AI-based solar planning tools, automated finance structuring solutions, etc. Data analytics and platforms will offer real-time insights, project monitoring, and predictive analysis, like asset monitoring system, program life cycle management platforms, and grid management tool. International Center of Excellence will particularly focus on building capacity for different stakeholders like technicians, policymakers, developers, and institutions. So the service that DG was just talking about, the ISA Academy, will be part of this pillar, and we will also be offering a hub and spoke model with the star centers that we have set up. Advisory and market development, which is the 4th pillar, it will create a supportive ecosystem through structured advisory, partnership facilitations, and market intelligence. Colleagues, the solar GCC and star centers are designed to operate as complementary institutions in a hub and spoke model, creating a seamless bridge between centralized expertise and localized implementation. GCC will anchor training of trainers and training of directors to support the long-term sustainability of the star centers and support countries to develop testing and standardization capabilities. The service that we are planning to launch today, which is called ISA Academy, we envisage to establish a globally accessible AI-enabled solar learning and knowledge sharing hub that equips ISA stakeholders worldwide with cutting-edge solar knowledge and skills. It also fosters South-South cooperation and accelerates the global transition. ISA Academy will be an AI-enabled learning and knowledge sharing platform, and it will also offer in-person trainings through star centers. We will also be doing industry collaboration, so the industry facilities could be made available for the in-person trainings, and then we will also be facilitating institutional partnerships. It will also foster knowledge sharing, peer learning communities, and South-South collaboration, and it will also host virtual webinars, workshops, and dialogues. These are the salient features of the overall academy, of the overall learning management system that we are preparing right now and will be launching sometime mid of next year. To begin with, we are launching the YouTube channel of ISA Academy today with the objective of democratizing solar knowledge and learning for all the stakeholders. Through a mix of beginner to advanced videos, the channel makes technical and policy-oriented solar knowledge both understandable and actionable. The aim is to break barriers to information, foster skill development at all levels, and accelerate the adoption of best practices and innovation, regardless of geography or background. This is the larger work plan for the Solar Global Capability Center that we have developed for next year. And these are some of the services that we are right now working on so that we can launch them by the end of next year, which will be accessible for all our member countries. One is the ISA Academy, which is going to be an online learning platform can be accessed by all the member countries. Then we are also working with NICE to create testing and capacity building services, where we will also support capacity building of institutions in different member countries. We are also preparing a grid management tool where we will be talking to countries and providing them advisory on how grid codes can be managed and developed to integrate solar. We are also working on another service which is called Solar Radiation Resource Assessment. This will actually equip and help member countries to assess the solar potential of their countries and then create a pipeline of bankable projects This tool will also help with the economic and financial analysis of the sites. We are also working on creating a finance structuring solution tool, because that was one demand which came from a lot of investors, like developers and EPCs that we spoke to, and they said that these countries in the global south, they need support with creating right financing structures, also creating right templates so that these can be taken to the banks and the right financial institutions for the investments. And this is our YouTube channel for ISA Academy, which we are launching today. You may like to scan the QR code to access the YouTube channel. Next, we have a small launch video of the Global Capability Center to give you a visual context of the platform.
While the world accelerates its shift toward a clean energy future, the Global South faces distinct obstacles that make solar adoption particularly challenging. These challenges are deeply rooted in gaps related to skills, finance, and technology, which are more pronounced than in other regions. For Global South, digitalization offers tools to fast-track solar deployment by addressing technical and financial barriers. AI-based planning enables least-cost electrification models, digital forecasting reduces curtailment risks, and IoT-powered grid management helps nations leapfrog traditional barriers. To bridge this gap, the International Solar Alliance is establishing the Solar Global Capability Center, a digital accelerator for solar transformation. The Solar Global Capability Center will serve as a multifunctional platform advancing inclusive growth with 4 strategic pillars, including advisory and market development AI, and digital services, data analytics platform, and international center of excellence. Provide ISA member countries with strategic guidance, market intelligence, standard templates that strengthen their solar ecosystems for creating an enabling environment where solar markets can expand sustainably and at scale. Focuses on harnessing advanced digital tools, deep tech, artificial intelligence, and data-driven insights to accelerate planning, design, and deployment of solar projects. It enables smarter decisions, improved efficiency, and forward-looking solutions. Builds integrated systems that offer real-time insights, project monitoring, and predictive analysis. This helps streamline project design, ensure transparency, and strengthen evaluation across the solar value chain. As part of Phase 1, the GCC will roll out a suite of digital service offerings for ISA member countries in 2026. These will include the ISA Academy, an integrated AI-based learning platform, alongside testing and certification services, solar radiation resource assessment, a grid management tool, and a finance structuring solutions tool. Developed in close collaboration with private sector partners, these services aim to strengthen technical capacity, enhance data-driven decision-making, and accelerate solar deployment across member nations. The GCC will establish a hub-and-spoke network connecting all 16 STAR centers, offering training programs specifically designed for trainers and directors to ensure the long-term sustainability and effectiveness of these centers. Parallel efforts are underway to develop a world-class GCC facility, which is set to be inaugurated in 2028 during India's COP presidency. The Global Capability Center will connect solar startups with governments, private sector and investors, academia, and research institutions, fostering international collaboration and knowledge exchange. At its core, the Solar Global Capability Center is about accelerating solar transformation, making clean energy accessible, affordable, reliable, and inclusive. Together, we can power a brighter, cleaner, and more equitable future.
Thank you so much. I was about to ask for a big round of applause for this flagship initiative of ISA. Thanks a lot. Moving on, I would like to request Shubhranshu Patnaik to take the floor for the panel discussion. Shubhranshu, over to you.
Thank you so much, Jyotsna, and this is really powerful to experience. It's come a long way. We've been hearing about the setting up of the GCC, but I think now we see the power of what it is conceived to be. The real power is in the democratization of capabilities and world-class knowledge that will possibly be available to all the member countries in terms of not just knowledge products, but also AI-enabled digital tools, which will be accessible to all the member countries going forward once the GCC is ready and up and running. So this is really good to hear. I have the privilege of having a really power-packed panel here with stakeholders from every walk of life. So we have the developers in Mr. Raijada from JSW Energy. We have Mr. Agarwal from one of the technology developers himself, so he will walk us through the technology life cycle. We have the honor of having His Excellency from Republic, which is Dominica, I should say. Sorry, apologies for that. Who will, be, bringing the government perspective today. We have Dr. Bala, who is from the Capacity Building Commission, and obviously, the world's largest capacity building initiative for government resources is being driven by him. So he will bring us some, perspectives on what it takes to really adapt technology at scale, adapt learning at scale, not just developing programs, but how do we make it stick? So we'll get some perspectives there. And last but not the least, Ms. Andrea, who will give us a perspective of how this complements efforts by multilaterals. From her perspective, how does this really drive complementarity with the initiatives that other multilaterals are driving? So maybe I start with you, Mr. Raijada. If you can walk us through what are the common problems that you encounter when you go and actually set up projects, not just in India but around the globe. What are the set of common problems that you encounter which could possibly be addressed through common frameworks, through more world-class standards that gets adopted when you drive something of this scale? So maybe you walk us through those problems and we'll try and draw some lessons around what could be adopted in the GCC of the future.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. So basically, if I start from the scratch, for the project, any specific project or the solar project, there are the three frameworks which starts from basics. One is the regulatory framework, second is the executional framework, and third one is basically a supply chain framework. So these are the three major pillars to execute any of the projects properly. If we speak one by one, regulatory. See, in any of the countries, some of the countries I have worked personally, except the India. India, I have worked rigorously, but some of the rest of the countries I have also worked. I don't want to take the name over here. But important, the problem of the regulatory side is we never know a correct directional framework of each country. We have to catch somebody local or some of the people who can guide us as per their knowledge. So if a GCC can create a directory and dictionary and guide us at a central point of level, then it would be easier to any of the alliance to put up any of the project very easily in any of the countries, supporting countries. So this is one of the wonderful aspects which we can take. Second was the executional. In the executional, if we support, so there are basically two things. One is the engineering side, means the skilled manpower or heavily skilled manpower, and second one is the less skilled or general kind of the manpower. So to search the manpower, for the skilled manpower, they are very well known. You can catch them on the social media or some of the areas as well. But for the medium or the lower skilled people, it's really difficult to search them. And for the particular employment, if you want to search, because I found in some of the countries, even I have to take the persons which are outside of the industry, even though some of the industrial people are available in the countries. So if the proper guidance and guidelines will be provided, if the dictionary and complete know-how will be provided by the GCC, then it would be easier to directly be contacted on those resources and tap those resources easily. And third specifically is the supply chain. So supply chain is the known, but important is how qualitative it is. See, there are a certain section of the people or of the resources, they are basically qualitative grade. And if we come to know, as per the cross prospects, what the quality they are possessing, it would be easier to guide any of the newcomer to any of the country to understand very easily which resource they need to tap as per their financial requirement. So this is my suggestion, I think.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Agarwal. May I come to you next, Mr. Agarwal? Sorry. If you can walk us through, what kind of, new age digital tools and technologies could start to get standardized within the framework of GCC that you envisage, and that could really be of use, across the globe. We can draw some lessons from them, given your work in this field already.
Sure, sure. No, thanks for having me. No, so I think I can bucket it in 3 areas, right? The first one to think about is how do you reduce friction? And this is to what Mr. Raizada was speaking about, right? So to get anything done, there are a lot of friction points, especially when a state is involved, and here multiple states are involved, right? And as again Mr. Raizada was pointing that can we have knowledge resources, but then one could go a layer above it and say that can we have standards and protocols for regulatory approvals, which India has some great experience in with the digital public infrastructure. And I think one thing to do, this is a more, we always talk about AI and all those things, but I think we need to do the more boring stuff, which is around or getting all these regulatory things into standards, right? Which is getting this unstructured kind of information into structures and across multiple nations. And thankfully, because ISA is a collaboration, probably it justifies to do these digital protocols and objects and codifying some of this information in it, so that it's not just a directory, but a place where you can have automated approvals and know how much time is going to be there. There can be a dashboard where companies can come and see what's really going on. So I think that's the first part of it, but it's not just, sometimes when we talk about digitizing, it's like first you have to put a paper application, now you upload a PDF, right? Which makes no difference to anyone's life, right? So you have to go to one step ahead of saying that how do you get structured information in and be able to algorithmically give an approval. So I think that's the first piece I would think that ISA can play a big role in, is to reduce friction through process re-engineering, when you do it, and it takes time to do this, and it would be a collaborative effort. So that's one. Two is when you look at now saying that where can you have efficiency gains, right? And that's where you start leveraging AI on saying that can we do predictive power prediction as to how much, starting from saying that, okay, can you have shared data around satellite data and so on, and seeing that where should you put something on and get those feeds all integrated in. And then to be able to even predict where how much power is going to be generated. Now in the West they do a prediction even for the next 1 hour, which then leads to changes in pricing and so on. So I think there can be a set of tools which ISA can provide on this platform, which are AI enabled. And I think there's also a lot of interest in when people say that let's put dashboards, right? And I think dashboards are interesting, but they again get boring very quickly, right? Because you're like, okay, first time you see a dashboard, you're very excited to see real-time data and so on, but then it has to drive actionables, right? And that's where I think more work has to be done. That and that's where AI again comes in, right? Like now you can have automatic inference from data and say what action should be taken, which then a human can do, and there can be a communication layer on top of it. So I think that's where I think the trap is just not to stop at dashboards and making information available, but create layers of actions on top of it. And third, I would say is innovation. So we started with reducing friction, then we talked about efficiency, and the third piece is innovation, where still most of the technology for solar is coming from the West, and I think it's time slowly to think about how all these nations as a collaborative can start contributing in that and building tools for that. Like it was very interesting to see this YouTube channel which is being launched, But can there be knowledge sharing? Because I think a lot of knowledge will be created locally. So it shouldn't be one way. It should be a two-way communication where the local knowledge which is being created in deployment, in running, and so on, can be fed back like in a wiki or a Wikipedia kind of a structure. And that knowledge can be shared to generate new knowledge and develop new knowledge. So those will be the 3 points I like to make.
This is excellent. Thank you, Mr. Agarwal. So if I can just take away a few points from you, you're emphasizing on the role of the hub and spoke model. I mean, it's not doing away with StarC. StarC is very, very important part of what's got developed within the ISA framework. And that will be very, very vital to driving actual implementation on the ground, actual accreditation, actual standardizations. But the GCC plays a role of developing high-level innovation products which then get democratized and accepted overall, right? And you brought out 2 or 3 elements of that. One, of course, is the ease of doing business part and driving efficiencies there. So making that available to the government and government agencies, so maybe for procurement itself, but also for standards and processes of those nature. And then, of course, for efficiency and efficiency gains in the operation period itself. So excellent in terms of the elements that you brought out. Dr. Bala, if I can come to you next. You know, the common misconstrued notion is we probably will develop a few training programs and a few tools, and that will drive everything forward. But from your experience of driving one of the largest change initiatives in the world, I believe almost 40 million people are getting trained in that framework. Walk us through what it takes from developing standards frames to really adopting that and driving capacity or change amongst the adoptees.
Thank you for that, setting the foundation for me to describe what capacity building is. I think most of us equate capacity building to training. And I think fundamentally that's an error is the way I look at it. So we started off looking at capacity building not in isolation, where we see training just as an instrument. One of the instruments we use for understanding what needs to be done. So we actually broke down capacity building, and like all of you are talking frameworks, I'm going to throw out a few frameworks around. We looked at 3 Ws. We said, what is the work that these people are going to be doing? And which is very unique for each level and role that they play. So we understand work, what is going to be the future of public administration. And luckily for us, we had the Honorable Prime Minister set us a clear target in terms of Vikasit Bharat by 2047. So we had a strategic vision plan of the nation. We knew exactly which ministry has to deliver on what. It could be evolving, it could be dynamic, but the point was we exactly knew what are the officers preparing themselves for. So what is work going to look like for them 5 years from now, 10 years from now? The second thing is the workplace is changing dramatically. Now we're talking of a global capability center completely driven possibly by technology in the virtual space. We couldn't have imagined this 10 years ago. So we said, how is workplace going to look at? How are we going to deliver public goods? Because the definition of public good itself is altering now. How do you look at it? And the last, we looked at the work person. And what does he need to operate in this workplace to deliver on the work that is there? So for us, capacity building was an ecosystem approach. We didn't take in a very isolated, silo-wise approach. The second thing was we were aware of the problems of the state. We were aware what were the barriers to performance. We understood what exactly are they supposed to be doing. And so we set, at least we were set a standard of by building capacity, what is the state expecting as an outcome. And I think that's a very standard framework everybody could use, including the Global Capability Center. The first thing is we should understand what performance means for the state. And therefore, if you're investing so much on capacity building, how is performance going to look like? How is the delta going to look like? With what kind of effort it will reach that delta? The second is from a public administration perspective, and I do suppose now power being some sort of a, though it's going to pay it for, it can't really fit the definition of a public good, it's essentially something the state provides. So we said accountability frameworks have to be put in place, and how do you enhance accountability of the system? First to themselves, to the department, the division, to the ministry and to the nation, most importantly to citizens. So those have to be driven by capacity building, because we should also appreciate that we had a unique problem. We actually inherited the legacy of the British leftover, right? And so we actually inherited a colonial mindset of how public administration operates. So for us, capacity building actually meant beginning with decolonization also. How do you throw away what is no longer relevant? It might have been relevant in a point of time in a particular context, but in independent India, we had to figure it out first, and we didn't. It took us 75 years to figure it out, but we realized we had to work very fast, and it's a huge amount of behavioral change. These are not the realities that's going to prevail everywhere else, or at least not in the solar space, but these are mostly realities in every other place. The third thing is, we said the reality of technology, you can't ignore it. So how are you going to embed technology in this understanding of capacity building at the very individual level and the larger ecosystem level? And we also had the mandate that the governance model is no longer going to be state as a patronizing agent of change. It's going to be state as a partner with citizens, and therefore everything that the state had to do now was going to become citizen-centric, with the Prime Minister even giving a call saying that Nagarik Devo Bhava, the citizen is the god for the government, and so how do we shift this mindset? So we had three major mandates that, in the language of the Prime Minister, he said, the behavioral shift, he said, was karmachari to karmayogi. You don't just operate like a civil servant following a set of things that you do for your salary, but you actually evolve yourself to serve. The second mandate, and that's again very interesting from the capacity building framework, is that he said that we got to move away from a rule-based thinking to a role-based approach. So today in government, we classify officers not just by the designation, that's why administrative convenience. Earlier, people just fell in love with the designations, they operated designation-wise in a very hierarchical manner. We are dismantling that, and today we say there are only three roles you can play in government. Within the roles, you may carry designations, and that enabled us to design learning products, and I think it matters for the solar space also. We said there's an operational role some people play. It could be the technicians, it could be the Anganwadi worker, it could be our people in the lab at the forefront and a scientist. They're operating on a particular outcome they have to do. The second, we say a set of officers who are tactical in their thinking. Like if you take the nutrition program portion, we know that the Anganwadi worker is operational. For the Anganwadi worker, her supervisor, the CDP or the child development officer could be slightly tactical. But for Government of India, they are all operational. So it's very contextual. So we actually clarified this context and said the learning product must appeal to the person who's actually operating in that particular context. And the last we said is strategic. So for the national level, strategic role is different. For the state levels, they're different. But we designed it out. And we also went on a massive exercise. And that's something which technology enabled us. And I can give an example before AI and after AI. Even in my 4.5 year term, I can actually separate out and say before and after AI. Before AI, we would actually hire expensive consultants, send them out to our ministries, actually map out people, look at their job descriptions, look at the roles they play, look at what competencies they need, and we didn't even have a competency framework. So I think the GCC should actually define what are the competency framework you need for people operating in the solar ecosystem. So we actually broke down competencies into behavioral, functional, and domain. We have 93 ministries, each having a different domain experience they need. And it took us 6 months for each ministry, but we managed to do all of them. But today, we have developed an AI tool with an 80% plus efficiency, which is better than a consultant's actually. It can, in 5 minutes, I can have the complete capacity building plan of any ministry in India, not just national government, even state governments. So that is the power of AI, and really can throw it out and say this is exactly what your people need to be trained in. So we actually know what capacities you need, what are your deficits, and therefore our training is very targeted. The last point I want to make when you drive with technology is we presume a learning management system enables learning. It does not. Let's not lose sight of the fact that learning for adults is not driven by compliance. It's driven by what I want to learn at this point of time, and therefore that's where AI is very powerful, and we are just field testing it now, and hopefully in a month's time we'll be rolling it out. You have a database, a library of material, and ISA has got huge material now, and I think the all countries put together will have a lot of material. So we say adults learn only when the shoe pinches, and they have to have a reason to learn. My job depends on it, my survival depends on it, my income capability depends on it, and he only has very little time. Today it's the world of Instagram, and my students at Cornell, when I was teaching, would tell me, can you tell us what you're teaching in an hour in 3-minute videos? That's a reality. No, you can't say I need an hour to teach something. You got to teach at the level of the learner. So we decided our learning is anytime, anywhere, any instrument. Now we are saying any subject that you need for your job. Earlier we had to give courses to match the competencies. Today we say you can go to our platform and say, I am having this problem as a technician in the solar plant and I don't know how to solve for it. And our tool will search around first right now it searches in our library and then we can allow you to search a globe and gives me an answer in the language I want. And in India, because we have to have every state has got its own language, we provide it in languages. So we have actually given a very highly customizable learning product, which is very driven by that. Or I can say, I need to understand how this whole process happens, so it will pick material from different places, put it together as a course, and offer it in very custom format for me. And we download a certificate. Obviously, in government, you have to incentivize. We also use this stick. I won't say we don't. We say if you don't do so many courses by next year, your APAR will get affected. So there is a semi-hybridization of compliance versus facilitation. But more importantly, we tell the person that now it's going to be very different. And the most important, I think, the person driving this. For us, the champion and the ambassador of the whole program is the Prime Minister himself. He keeps asking us what courses should I do. He actually visits the portal. And more importantly, he runs a National Learning Week every year for a week, during which time he personally monitors how many people in the Prime Minister's office itself are doing what kind of courses. So I think when you have somebody like that inspiring and pushing it, it gets absorbed. So now it's going to be a challenge because when you're an alliance like this, every country needs to have a brand champion and ambassador for knowledge. And if they drive it, I'm sure that it will become common parlance.
Excellent points, Dr. Bala. As usual, I think carry away for me is 3 or 4 elements. One, of course, the importance of making the learning management system designed in such a manner that it is relevant, impact-oriented or performance-oriented, and outcome-oriented, right? So that's one aspect of it. And second, design it for each and every persona who will be involved in the supply chain from a solar standpoint. It should be relevant to the last person, and it should be relevant to the highest person as well. So programs have to be designed speaking to them individually and not necessarily at a generic level. So yeah, very, very important points. And of course, you talked about the systemic elements of how to drive the change, which is relevant from a government perspective. Maybe I come to you, Dr. Henderson, on that aspect. How do you see this? You've been obviously involved in all the discussions, and we have the honor of having you, so I'll not let you go without asking a question on how do you see the whole GCC framework? How do you perceive of it? And where do you see the elements being very relevant for countries like yours, which is of course an SIDS itself, where some elements will always be very difficult to develop standing alone. But if that's kind of available from a global COE, it becomes that much more attractive, and it becomes that much more powerful as well. So maybe I come to you and draw you out on some of those aspects.
No, clearly, this is a major game changer for small island developing states. We don't have the capacity on island, and I really thank you very much for that learning opportunity, Professor. Thank you very much. Because we don't have the ability to keep getting people trained and going out. And the key thing is on demand and being able to have AI-enabled online learning that could reach people at any time and help them to solve problems, which is the key thing. Being able to use these tools to solve problems on demand. And one of the things that came out even yesterday in the discussions is really standards. And I think that is going to be a key thing. I didn't see much of it highlighted there, except for the program with the NICE. But I think it is important that we in small island developing states can be guided in terms of standards of equipment. And one standard that I'm asking ISA to work on is a standard for resilience, climate resilience. And we need to be able to use these tools so that we can not only better design and optimize systems, but being able to learn as we move along. Out of that, though, I think you need to have data. You need to be able, and I like the concept that was shared, that it should be both ways. We should be able to share. But I think there must be some more in situ sort of work done, because understanding life on an island state is much different than being in almost a continental, place like India. So there are nuances, there are differences, there are peculiarities that we need to be able to fit into a system that when you actually go through the GCC, you're able to get data or to get the type of information and get the type of learning that is applicable to our own realities, our own circumstances. And I'm hoping that we can see the GCC develop into a tool that will provide for small island developing states in those particular areas where we know we have some slight differences from India and some of the larger member states of ISA. But clearly it is a tool that can help to better understand the role that solar power can play in development and being able to, I like the plan because, sorry, there was one thing I need to go back to. There was a point that was made about forecasting. This is something that I've been raising in the Caribbean for a long time. I come from a small island, and everybody here, please, if you give me your attention just for 1 second. I come from the island of Dominica. It's the Commonwealth of Dominica, not the Dominican Republic. I love the Dominican Republic, our neighborhood, but yeah. But the fact is, we are a small island state, very mountainous, a lot of rainfall, but we have a lot of cloud cover. Being able to forecast solar power over a period of time is critical. And I'm saying this from my own learned experience. I have solar power at home, and I know the nervousness I get because we know what I just know out of practice, out of habit, out of knowledge, experience, that we normally would have, like, say, perhaps 3 days of cloud cover consecutively. And that creates a problem. If we go in I could deal with it because I'm connected to the grid. But if you go in utility scale solar generation, you need to be able to have those tools available. So these tools become critical in helping for energy planning, but also for forecasting, and to ensure that we know that the utility company knows what to do. And they have to prepare for it. Because in our case, for example, we have hydropower. And hydropower is also, to some extent, because we don't have storage, we don't have major reservoirs, it can be, sometimes almost like, I won't say intermittent, it's not, that would not be the appropriate word, but the time of year would depend, will determine the actual outputs of generation. And therefore, being able to have tools that can help you in forecasting, seeing ahead, makes a big difference. And I think that this GCC is definitely a tool that will allow us, we don't have the capabilities, and especially using AI as an opportunity, as a tool actually, to drive a lot of the learning, a lot of the information that can be accessed, would make a big difference, especially for small island developing states.
Excellent points, Dr. Henderson. So again, taking away from what you said, 3 or 4 major points. One, of course, is not losing sight of the variability across the country's members, particularly the archetypes of SIDS versus larger countries, and what standards would apply differently for them. And the second element that you drew on very eloquently is look at system level influences also. And it's not, so technologies should also be obviously helping you from a system perspective and not just isolated for just one technology as in solar, but how does it impact the overall system and how do you get that to be managed. So excellent points, Dr. Henderson. Ms. Andrea, sorry for coming to you last, but let me draw you out on where you see complementarities. You, of course, work in the intersection of industrial transition in emerging economies as well as other countries. Walk us through where you see the complementarities of this approach that ISA is bringing to the table with what UNIDO, of course, has been so much involved in for years together.
Well, thank you very much, dear Chair, and I would like also to take the opportunity to thank my colleagues from the International Solar Alliance for having UNIDO here, for allowing me to share this space with you. Before starting, I would like to highlight that UNIDO is the specialized agency of the United Nations to support and foster inclusive and sustainable industrial development. This is our mandate. And in alignment with that, what we are doing to support our member countries is to provide by the provision of technical assistance, advisory services, capacity building, so that we can ensure that the countries will be able to enhance policies, strategies, initiatives. In consideration to that, and also taking into account the purpose of the GCC, we have identified several aspects for complementarity. We can talk about the standards and quality assurance, as you were highlighting, digital supply chain upgrade as well, just energy transition, and digital skill, Sud-Sud, and triangular cooperation. When we talk about standards and quality assurance, one of the very good examples is the StarSea project, and that we have been discussing during these days about the StarSea project that has been implemented from 2022, and it's counted with funding available support of the government of France to support ISA member countries in the enhancement of the technical, institutional, and networking capacities. Why I'm talking about the StarSea? Because this program was designed with a very important approach to work at the regional level and to work at the country level. At the regional level, through the involvement of the Global Network Regional Sustainable Energy Centers, an initiative led by UNIDO to accelerate the market uptake of renewables and energy efficiency technologies, including solar. And the standards and digitalization, it's one of they are some of the key components of the GNSEC, and that's why the GNSEC was involved in the implementation of the StarSea first phase. And then at the country level, we have been working with pilot countries for the setup of the StarSea centers, as you know, PNG, Senegal, and Bhutan. During this period of implementation, we have get several invaluable results. Qualification frameworks, quality frameworks as well, that involves the development of standards for products and services, selected products and services for photovoltaics and solar thermal technologies, the promotion of gender and social inclusion, because this is key for the development of the solar energy sector, the implementation of different capacity building activities, and also dissemination activities. With these results that we have gathered, the lessons learned, the learning process, all of this can become part of the GCC to keep supporting ISA member countries and going to the next step, especially for those that will be involved into the next phase of the StarSea, that will be counting with the support, or will be implemented under the cooperation framework between of ISA and the EU. In this line, I think through the GCC we can have a bigger impact in terms of standardization and quality assurance. But when we talk about digital supply chain upgrade, this is also go directly to the agenda of UNIDO for digital transformation. And as the GCC would be being this center hub to make available the technology for the ISA member countries, we as UNIDO can provide your expertise from the digital transformation. But also we need to take into account when we talk about digitalization, it's not just about opportunities, it's also about challenge. That's why within our experience, when we are integrating the digitalization within the supply chains that also involve solar technologies, we need to consider 4 pillars to move ahead and to take advantage of the full potential of digitalization. We can talk about digital infrastructure because we need to access to reliable technology and networks. Digital skills because we need to create this new mass of professionals that would be able to use the technology. Digital frameworks because we need clear policies and rules, and of course digital cooperation. And here I would like to highlight again the role of the GNSEC. And finally, talking about just energy transition and digital skills, because if we talk about the industrial development, the development of the supply chains, when they become digital, when they become smarter and more efficient, this also enables opportunities for new jobs. And between within the cooperation that we have with ISA and under the framework again of the GCC, we can ensure that these new jobs opportunities will remain for local people to support local industries and also to ensure that we will include the participation of women and youth. Just to summarize, UNIDO can bring this expertise in terms of industrial development, digital transformation, while the GCC will be contributing with solar energy data, with training backbone, with digital platforms, so that together we can move ahead, we can continue supporting the development of the solar energy sector for all ISA member countries. Thank you.
Excellent points. Thank you, Ms. Andrea. I think, again, just to take away 2 or 3 points, headline points from what you said. One essential element is the role of StarSeas and how it will continue to provide on-the-ground quality assurance, certifications, all of which could actually be monetized going forward, along with the private sector's involvement there. So that's one very important element. And the other one, you spoke about the not just the opportunities that digitalization offers, but also the challenges. How do we keep that in mind and make sure that that results in a positive local impact also in terms of job generation and employment, right? So I think that those are very, very important points to keep in mind as we design the overall framework. If I can come to you, Mr. Rajada, we have some time, so maybe we'll go through 1 or 2 more questions. In terms of, now that you've heard the other speakers as well, what are the elements that you think you would distinguish to say has to be delivered locally with regards to interacting with the government, getting things done with the government, that are very essential and can be actually factored into our local centers? Vis-a-vis, what are the elements that you think can actually be delivered from a centralized perspective in terms of processes, systems, knowledge, and of course leaning on technology and technology solutions? So from a government perspective, what are the elements when you interact with the government you think you would continue to work with the government, and therefore there are ways and means of doing that locally, and there are those things that you think can be actually driven by common frameworks from a center of excellence?
Okay. All right. Thank you. So actually what happens is when you are executing any of the project, the important point is 2. One is the safety, one is the ease of doing the business. So specifically, if you see the project as a safety point of view, then the local governance is very, very important. Like electrical safety, manpower safety, equipment safety, local plant safety. So the local authorities must be involved into that. But for the larger platforms like forest approvals, railway crossing approvals, bridges approvals, so land approvals, line approvals. So these are the majority areas where the project got delayed. So here the central government has to play a vital role to get the clearance faster. And they have to a single window system where it should be very clearly be created in such a way that a person could get a ease of business. Whenever the investor is coming out of the India, then they definitely need or they want basically to invest a easy money. They want to take the things so simpler that it should be in a single window, should be applied, should be approved. If there is any concerns, need to be mitigated fast. But here what we people are facing is generally the prolongation of the processes. So what Mr. Agrawal is also saying, the system and procedures, so this can be a part of that system. So I think these are the 2 major challenges which generally need to be resolved.
I don't know how we're doing on time. I think we are nearly there. Dr. Henderson, if I can come to you next, in terms of your impressions of how you see the GCC move in phases. Right, so the first element, of course, is, as we looked at it, maybe standardizing some of the training aspects of it. How do you see, obviously the digital elements will take some time to develop and we'll obviously be phasing that out. And you saw the work program look at it in a phased manner. From your perspective, which are the priority elements that you think can be taken up first, and which are the elements that we can take a little bit of time to develop further? So if I can just draw you out on those elements of prioritization, that if you can help us out with, that will be good to hear, sir.
Well, every time I speak, I like to bring my country's perspective, and also I like to also highlight the situation of small island developing states. And clearly, large organizations like ISA, over 120 members, it is easy to get lost with the smallness, although I must confess, I must say hastily that the Director General has given some emphasis on SEEDS with the SEEDS platform launching and some of the work that is being done to ensure that the situation, the peculiarities of SEEDS are highlighted. But I cannot overstate the need for seeing content that deals with resilience. And I'm talking about resilience to the impact of climate change. And that has to be given some priority, because if we don't have resilient systems, what happens when the first major hurricane hits? What happens to that power purchase agreement? What happens to the residents on that island and the ability to get back power? These are things that we need to give urgent attention, because what we don't want to happen is a loss of confidence in the solar technology. And this is where my biggest concern is, and I'm losing sleep on this. Similarly, the issue of standards, as I mentioned, is important. I know you have the IEC, you have the different standards that certify solar equipment. But consumers need to know, especially when we start talking about introducing rooftop solar and individual solar power systems for residential and commercial places. We want to ensure that what is installed is in fact gives you what it promised to give you. Certification from the solar panels to the inverters and the battery systems. And I'm not saying this because I've had to buy batteries 3 times in the last 5 years, but and found out that they were defective from the factory. So we need to be able to educate, the users, the end users. Obviously, companies are more sophisticated, so when they do their procurement, they know what to look for. But the individuals who are seeking to see solar power as an alternative, they need to know the quality is assured when they do their procurements. So I believe that we need to get a space for small island developing states and to deal with issues of resilience and to ensure that we can have the tools that can help us. And as I mentioned earlier, that is also an area of priority, forecasting. Being able to have the capabilities in different locations wherever you are. I mean, the technology is available. There's a lot of stuff out there that can be utilized to help in doing forecasting. There are regional institutions in these regions, the Caribbean, the Pacific. There are regional institutions that have data, that may have access, to real-time info, real-time data that can be utilized to give that kind of tool to especially utilities. I think utility scale or IPPs, they are going to need to have that capability in order to be able to produce properly. But I just think for me, my biggest concern is that we don't want, as we roll out massive solar projects in the islands, that confidence is lost. So we have to move very quickly in those areas.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Anderson. That was a good note to, I think, bring this on to close. Again, carrying the 2 highlights from what you said, focus on elements which are essential for longer-term security. So obviously standards, performance standards, but also resilience, which you brought so eloquently into focus. So clearly that's something that needs to be given priority up front while we look at the GCC's work also. Without further ado, I'll hand this back to the organizers. Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Thank you, Dr. Bala, Mr. Agarwal, Mr. Ajada, Ms. Andrea. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shubhranshu. Thanks a lot. And big thanks to all the dignitaries on stage for this insightful discussion and also strengthening our work and belief and reinforcing how GCC will prove to be a game changer for our global south. We really look forward to working with you all closely and particularly with all our countries, because without the country's support and without their collaboration, I don't think we'll be able to do this alone. I would now like to invite His Excellency Dr. Henderson, Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Business, Trade and Energy of the Commonwealth of Dominica, for the closing remarks.
Thank you very much. But I thought I said the last words. That's not really fair. But really, I want to take the opportunity to thank ISA for bringing to focus some of the issues that are important to its members, and especially the smallest members among us. I'm very, very happy to be part of this assembly, and in particular this panel. We have here, I think, an all-star cast. I could tell by the quality of their contributions. So I want to thank you. You did an excellent job in selecting the panelists, and their contributions, I hope, will pay attention to some of the contributions that they've made, especially when you consider the use of technology and AI-enabled online learning, utilizing the tools, and I think that was a great advice and suggestions that were made in terms of being able to move from digitalization as merely taking something from the paper form and putting it in an electronic format, but actually being able to go through the entire process, even an application process. And I like the contribution on the dashboard. I think having a dashboard, of course, when you're on a dashboard, you want to see you moving, because that's why you have a dashboard in your car. You want to see the speed, you want to see where the fuel is, and some people like the RPM to know when they're really pressing the pedal hard enough. So it is important that we bring the tools that can, in fact, bring the technology to life, but being able to do so in a way that can help the end user. We, as individual member states, may not have the capacity to do all of those things. It may be we may have the capacity if we have the money. I like to say that, because capacity is also your ability to buy the services that you require at any given time. So people like to talk about capacity as if you must have somebody in there who can do that thing, but being able to do that. So I recognize that we may not even have the resources to procure the type of services that would be able to give us what the GCC will be able to give member states. So we really have to commend ISA for this initiative, but we need to ensure that it grows and to ensure that it works for the members. We need to have a feedback mechanism. We need to have an opportunity to ourselves produce content and to supply content, so that it will be a loop, a feedback loop, an opportunity for learning and from different parts of the world. So we'll be very happy to utilize these tools as much as possible. But finally, I want to say thank you to ISA on my own behalf, my delegation, I'm sure my colleagues, especially those from the Caribbean, but all member states, for the hospitality of ISA and the government of India. And I must say, it is the first time that I'm actually attending an assembly, having been a Minister of Energy for a number of years, and having been in the energy space for the last 20 years. I have to say that it's my first meeting, and I'm very happy that I made the decision, although very difficult, because this is our favorite time of year in Dominica, when we celebrate our independence and everything that happens during that time of the year. But I'm very happy that I was able to join you. I look forward to seeing the implementation of not only the GCC, but being able to see as we say, ambitions to actions on the SEEDS platform as member states, with great anticipation, look forward to what ISA can bring to its members. I stand prepared to work with you, especially in the Caribbean, and I have had the opportunity to work with SEEDS throughout the world as the first chairman of SIDSDOC. And it's an organization that we formed some years ago at the United Nations. And of course, having worked closely with UNIDO in the establishment of the centers in the Pacific, in the Caribbean, and throughout the world, we are able to work very closely with GenSec. And we did a lot of work together back in those days. And I'm hoping that ISA will also have the opportunity to collaborate with some of our institutions, our regional institutions, so that we will be able to really see the transition into renewable energy, not only in SEEDS, but especially in Africa. I was encouraged by the presentation by Ghana today, and I believe that ISA can make a major impact on the African continent, being able to enter into partnership agreements, to collaborate with member states so that we can see ambition into action. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And with that, I request the esteemed participants, our eminent panelists, to kindly step ahead of the dais and give us a group photo opportunity. I'd also